final saga of One Piece is well underway. When the One Piece is found and a new Pirate King is named, there will be a crazy war where the government will likely go down as the dawn of a new era begins. That new era will need new leaders to lead it. Honorable mentions. Quickly, I'm going to mention some honorable mentions. Although these characters will probably have some impact on how the world is ran post-Final War, they're a little too old to be considered the new school, so yeah. Dalton. Dalton is the new king of Cherry Blossom Kingdom, which was formerly known as Drum Kingdom. He took over after the Straw Hats sent the previous king, Walpole, packing. Dalton won't be the only character from the recent Reverie that will be popping up on this list, but yeah, he's a little too old to fit the criteria. Charlotte Katakuri. Next up we got my main man, Charlotte Katakuri. Katakuri will probably be a force to be reckoned with in the pirate world post-Final War if he becomes the new leader of the Big Mom Pirates. While we don't know just yet if Big Mom is really dead, the few Big Mom pirates that were on Wano were already discussing the possibility themselves. As Sparrow said, as the eldest son, he'd lead them, but I think overall most of the siblings would side with Katakuri leading them. We see Katakuri go through a transformation throughout the whole Cake Island arc. When Big Mom starts rampaging, he's quick to jump into action to take over as the leader. He notices something in Luffy very early on. As their fight progresses, he begins to acknowledge Luffy more and more, as he sees the potential he feared being realized right before his future-seeing eyes. Having a newfound respect for him, he asks if Luffy will return to bring Big Mom down. I don't know if this is because Big Mom and her hunger pangs have actually caused his siblings a lot of grief over the years, but Cat didn't seem opposed to it. Cat has shown that his biggest ambition to this point has been protecting his siblings, but with Big Mom out of the picture, who's to say this conqueror doesn't find a new ambition? Smoker. Smoker is a Marine that has always seen that the Marine organization has a lot of good to it and a lot of bad to it. The further the story goes on, the more he's exposed to the true corruption of the world government. I bet in a post-current world government world, he will probably stay and be a strong staple within the Marines, potentially moving up from Vice Admiral to Admiral. The leaders of the new school. Rebecca. Rebecca is the princess of Dressrosa, and another face that showed up at the recent Reverie. Her nation has seen some of the worst effects of what can happen when government-backed pirates have a free runway to abuse their power, and was willing to risk it all in the Colosseum for the chance to free her people. That warlord system Doflamingo abused is gone now. If the celestial dragons that have made the world government overall so corrupt were also out of the way, I'm sure she'd be a part of the decision making, but honestly, I would see Viola running things in Dressrosa up until the point that Rebecca would be ready to take over the mantle as the new ruler. Shirahoshi. Shirahoshi is the mermaid princess of Ryukyu Kingdom and the ancient weapon Poseidon. Much like her ancient predecessor, I think that she will be very involved in the story of the current Joy Boy, Luffy. She hasn't been much of a leader up until this point, but I think that she will grow in this aspect, similar to the next two names that'll be on this list. She is already making strides, as she decided to attend the Reverie after she wasn't sure at first. When Imu ascends to the empty throne, we see the wanted posters of both Blackbeard and Luffy cut up, and a picture of Shirahoshi with a sword through it. So Imu is very aware of her existence and presence. It's clear besides her ability, her potentially growing into that leader for the fishmen will be important in this final saga. After seeing the sun for the first time, I know that she'll want to make a way for all fishmen to be able to see it as well. However, immediately after seeing the sun, she sees the ugliness of the surface, as she's almost taken by St. Charlos twice and has to be saved by St. Milsgard, the celestial dragon who was actually saved by her mom in the Fishman Island flashback, and Leo and Sai on the other occasion. Knowing the future she wants for her people and the evil the celestial dragons do, I'm sure she'll be imperative to the end of the story and the future of the Fishman race. Kobe. Kobe is the ultimate day one homie of Luffy, and we've seen him progress leaps and bounds every single time that we see him in the story. He's already proven his bravery and leadership several times, like when he got in the way of a raging Akainu in Marineford so that he could save more Marine lives, or when he saved the rulers of Dressrosa from a torpedo as they were on their way to the Reverie, or sacrificing himself on the Amazon Lily to the Blackbeard pirates so that all of the Marines could go free, and whatever he did to get the moniker of hero at the Valley Port incident during the time skip. He's also Garb's most beloved pupil, who he himself says will be the future of the Marines. He also says the rest of the Sword members would be the future of the Marines, like Prince Groose, Helmeppo, Kujaku, and Hibari, but we know when he said it about Kobe, he really meant it. But just throw them all in this section if you want. Kobe's dream is to become a Marine Admiral, and he definitely has the strength and the heart to do just that. Kozuki Momonosuke. Momo is the current shogun of the Kingdom of Wano, and very similarly to Kobe, has had a journey to become the man that he is today. When we first meet Momo, he's really just a snot-nosed kid, kind of just playing samurai. But when it's time to make the Ninja Mink Pirate Samurai Alliance, Luffy refuses to help them unless Momo addresses him directly, which leads to Momo having to have his first big moment as a leader. Luffy is constantly pushing Momo to be a better leader, like when he took all of the poison in the prison mines and forced Momo to face the prisoners. This was a real aha moment for him to start really understanding his role in saving his country from Orochi and Kaido. Although he knows that when these people look at him, they just see his father, Kozuki Oden, and that he'll have to blaze his own path. This is also apparent when the Alliance tries to recruit Ashura Doji, but he refuses, stating that he only wanted to follow Kozuki Oden and looks down on Momo and the rest of the vassals that they weren't around the last 20 years. So in the time leading up to the raid, we see Momo training in most of the screen time we see him in, and he even learns from Zoro himself, knowing that he's gonna have to stand on his own 2 feet soon if he plans to lead this nation. So when he gets captured by Kanjuro, he vows to escape by himself, and he almost does just that by cutting himself loose, even though Kanjuro just knocks his ass out. He then really lets his nuts hang when Kaido has his ass on the cross and tells him to say his name is something other than what his name is, and Momo says, "Fuck that. I'm going out like a G if I'm going out," and says that he is Kozuki Momonosuke, the man that'll be the shogun of Wano. And from here, we continue to see Momo grow as a leader. When Luffy goes down and he thinks Kinemon has just been killed, he rallies the troops by reassuring them that Luffy was still alive. It's clear that he valued his country more than his own life, as he was willing to give up 20 years of his childhood to become an adult so that he could be a full-size dragon and a man that the people could respect. Then he literally puts his city on his back when it's up to him to use his flame clouds to softly bring down the island of Onigashima while Luffy beats Kaido. It's stated multiple times by Yamato and then himself that he can't afford to die because in Oden's journal, it says that he'll be pivotal to leading the world to the dawn. Hell, even the narrator makes note of how important his leadership will be going forward. When this arc is over, we see that his decision not to open the borders of Wano was the correct one, as the Gorosei are annoyed that Wano will remain an isolated fortress. So if Momo will play a huge role in the Dawn, and it likely involving his connection with Zunisha and potentially the ancient weapon Pluzon, I think it's safe to say he'll be an important leader post-Final War. Sabo. Sabo was born a noble in the Goa Kingdom, though he never really agreed with the lifestyle of looking down on the have-nots. So even as a person with more privilege, he still didn't feel truly free. So he knew he'd rather hit the open seas with his Sake Cup brothers to have true freedom. When the nobles were gonna burn down the scrap heap of Great Terminal where all the poor people lived, he couldn't understand it and ran into the arms of Dragon, claiming he regretted being born a noble at all. Since his first quote-unquote death was at the hands of a celestial dragon, it only makes sense that he has the mindset that he has today, wanting freedom for all people. After the events of the Reverie where Sabo declared war on the celestial dragons and saw the truly vile evil that's at the top of the world, he was framed for the death of King Cobra. This framing actually backfired on the world government and caused several rebellions all across the world, with Sabo as the sparking reason. Now dubbed the Flame Emperor, although he doesn't really like that name, he's likely even surpassed the infamy of Monkey D. Dragon in the eyes of the people, so he'll be looked at to lead in this final war and beyond. Nefertari, Vivi. Vivi will be the most important figure outside of Luffy in the final war of One Piece, and she will also be the new leader that makes the biggest impact on the world post-Final War. And it's only fitting as she's one of the first characters that the Straw Hats meet after entering the Grand Line, and a princess who cares more about her people than anything else in this world. From even a young age, Vivi's leadership abilities were front and center. In Drum Kingdom, she actually teaches Luffy that fighting isn't always the answer when being a leader, and in Alabasta, Luffy teaches her that she can't save everyone by herself, and that in war, there will always be some casualties. Her love for her kingdom is ultimately the reason why she doesn't continue sailing with the Straw Hats to begin with. Vivi is always outspoken for those in need, and puts others before herself at all times. It doesn't matter if she's talking to a warlord, CP0, or anyone else. She gonna say what she wants to say. In the Reverie, when we see Imu ascend to the empty throne, it's her picture that they're holding in their hands. And I believe this is because Vivi strongly resembles her ancestor, Nefertari D. Lily, the one that not only had the Alabasta Kingdom be the only one of the 20 kings not to become celestial dragons, but also the person that had the poneglyphs spread across the planet. Emu even says that they want the Gorosei to retrieve Vivi, so I think she'll be important right down to the last chapters of One Piece, and vital to leading the new era. Now I know what you must be wondering, where is a certain straw hat wearing pirate on this list, but here's the thing guys. Will Luffy be a leader in the final war? Yes, because he'll have the whole world behind him. But Luffy doesn't care about being a leader of the New World, or a faction like the Marines when all this shit is over. Luffy wants to be the freest man on the seas as the Pirate King. But I'm not gonna hold you. Luffy might not even live to the very end, because it's also possible that he's executed at the end of the story at Logtown, just like Gold D. Roger was executed at the beginning of the story. Because Logtown isn't just Roger's hometown and the last place Luffy goes before entering the Grand Line. It's the town of beginnings and ends. So it may be the end of the prologue in the beginning of the story, and the beginning of the epilogue in the end of the story. Give the video a like and let me know what you think about what I said here down below. Make sure you subscribe if you're not subscribed, hit the noti bell. And if you want to know about Usopp's future in Elbaf and beyond, and the fate of a brave warrior of the sea, check out the video that'll be on the screen.